Hello and welcome along to another episode of Robin and Jane in the Stalls. This week it's all about music. In fact, it's about one of the most famous musical duos of all time. We're talking about Simon and Garfunkel. And the Simon and Garfunkel Story has been selling out venues all across the world. It's back in Belfast at the Grand Opera House for 3 nights this week. And Jane, we were there in the stalls. Now, I know already you've seen the real thing. You've seen Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel live in person.
Yes, I certainly have, but funnily enough, never together. I saw Paul Simon a few years back and he was gigging with Sting. What was interesting was that was senior by quite a few years. He was the better singer. And in fact, he snuck in and stole one of Sting's repertoire, The Wonderful Fields of Barley, and made it his own. It was a great night. Not such a great night when I saw Art Garfunkel, it has to be admitted, again a few years ago, but afterwards. The voice had faded, although the emotion was still there. And he actually brought his son on at one point for support, which was much needed, I think.
Now, last night in the Grand Opera House, the chat show king, Jerry Kelly, was sitting beside us in our row. And Jerry told me during the show that he actually saw Simon and Garfunkel live in Dublin back in 2004 with, wait for this, the Everly Brothers in support.
Oh, my word. That must have been a night to remember.
Definitely. And of course, it would be worth the money alone just to see the Everly Brothers.
Oh, it certainly would. It certainly would. But I feel we got our money's worth here because it was a thrill for me having seen the band separately to see the boys together. And I felt that Cameron Potts as Art and Will Sharp as Paul really did a very good job. It wasn't imitation. It wasn't a tribute band. It was simply the music. And they spoke in English accents. They didn't put on American voices or anything like that. It was just really a blast from the past now of wonderful music that highlights all our yesterdays. And I think the audience was certainly enjoying a trip back down memory lane.
Well, judging by the age of some of the members of the audience last night, they probably remember Simon and Garfunkel when they were called Tom and Jerry.
Yes, I think they probably did. And we had a reference in one of the songs, of course, to Tom. Yes, they were back in the day called Tom and Jerry, which conjures up a very amusing image. But I think what struck me was the emotional heft still of the songs, and also the urban grit, because these are 2 New York Jewish boys after all. And what we think about when we think about Simon Garfunkel is we think about the sweetness of the harmonies, the thirds and the sixths, and the way the voices harmonize together. But if you listen to some of the lyrics, I mean, for example, Cecilia, who has men on rote, up in her bedroom, and the Shoeshine Boy and so on. There's a lot of urban grit there. So it's not all the sweetness and light that we remember. But of course, there was a psychedelic sort of period, wasn't there? A hippy-dippy era.
There was, so we kind of dipped into all of the periods of their music as well. I think if I was to choose my favourite song from their back catalogue, it wouldn't be the obvious ones that you might think of. I would actually go for The Only Living Boy in New York. I think that's a great song, and as you say, a very gritty song as well.
It is a gritty song. I'm afraid I do like also things like Cecilia. I love Scarborough Fair, and this was the period when Paul Simon came to England, we discovered, and had a girlfriend here, and or rather over there. And he wrote quite a lot of music, including love songs and so on, but he also wrote Scarborough Fair, which we all know and love. But what was interesting was that as a backdrop, we had lots of projected screen footage. And to that, we had the bombing of Vietnam, amongst other things. And that completely undercut the sweetness in the way that the lyrics do in some of the other songs. I thought that was actually quite interesting.
It was, and I think the whole way they packaged the videos and the photo footage on the big screen as well really helped to bring the story alive. And I think it made the production, didn't it?
It did. We also saw the Summer of Love, and we got a shot of Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock, I think. And there was, I don't know the title, but there was a psychedelic offering, which I hadn't heard before, which was quite interesting, and against their usual style. But if you think about it, what came in the 70s, I mean, and what was already coming, heavy metal, rock and roll and so on, rock really. They went against the grain, but they did it so beautifully that they won the hearts of, well, the globe essentially,
They did. I mean,
and outsold the Beatles.
yeah, they started off that year with the Bridge Over Troubled Water album, which, as you say, outsold the Beatles, and I think it was the best-selling album in the world for 3 years in a row.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's no surprise. Now, of course, we were waiting for the big song, weren't we?
Well, you were waiting for the big song.
Waiting for the big song because it was my mother's and my much older sister's favourite, really, of the repertoire. And so it has the emotional weight for me. It takes me back to hearing them play it to me, you know, when I was very small.
I'm going to shock a lot of people when I say this, but it's my least favourite Simon and Garfunkel song.
I know. You are a Bridge Over Troubled Water heretic, aren't you?
I know. I think because over the years I've heard so many people murder that song at different shows and different concerts that I just don't want, and it's overplayed as well.
It is. No, you're absolutely right on that. But I thought this was a new, fresh singing of it. I'm not sure I entirely approved of the way Cameron Potts projected his voice and he sort of bellowed bits of it, because I feel it should be tender, sweet, soft, positive, spiritual, all of the above, you know. But each to his or her own taste. Did you like his account of it, even though you don't like the song?
It was good. I was waiting for the Boxer, which of course is the big finale, and I think the Boxer was the one that was worth waiting for. Other standout songs in the show as well, as you said, Cecilia was a great song. Mrs. Robinson was good as well.
Oh, Mrs. Robinson was good. Sounds of Silence too. I thought they were good.
I've got to tell you a story about Sounds of Silence. As you know, Mrs. E is a vocal coach, and one of her students was singing some Simon and Garfunkel songs one time, and she asked him, "What would you like to sing today?" And he said, "I want to sing this song about Douglas." And she went, "Is there a song about Douglas?" She went, I'm going to go and ask Robin. So she came up and asked me. She said, "What's the Simon and Garfunkel song where he sings about his friend Douglas?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't think he does." And what the guy was on about was, he said the lyrics were, "Hello, Douglas, my old friend."
Genius. Absolute genius. Absolute genius. And I thought there was a slightly political song right at the beginning. I wish I could be Richard Corrie. I don't know, which was quite unusual. But again, that was tuning into the zeitgeist. So they did experiment. I mean, Paul Simon said something like, it's actually rather difficult to write something that's both simple and good. But my goodness, he managed it. And he is, I think, a musical genius.
Indeed, and of course they do reference what he went on to do in the 1970s, all his big solo hits as well. They talked about or mentioned the movies that the guys did over the years as well, and of course the big comeback in 1981. The one thing they didn't mention on the backdrop was the fact that Art Garfunkel had a massive UK #1 single with Bright Eyes.
Yes, you're right. That was a strange omission, wasn't it? I don't know why that was. Maybe they don't like bright eyes. I don't know. Maybe they're a bright eyes heretic. Heretics.
But after seeing this show, I mean, it's easy to see why it's playing to sellout audiences all over the world. I know that there's an Australian tour going on at the same time as the UK tour at the moment.
Really? That's incredible. So it appeals down under. It appeals everywhere. It appeals everywhere that people like music that is, as Simon said, both simple and good, and who remember via their old relatives the music from a certain period and a certain time. It will take you there.
The other thing I would have loved to have heard a little bit in the show was something. Now, they did play an instrumental from Paul Simon's Graceland album, but I would have loved to be heard a medley of Graceland going into You Can Call Me Al, something like that.
Oh, so would I. I would have loved Graceland. I agree. That would have been a welcome addition. Maybe they'll put it in if they listen to this. You never know.
Well, it's time now for us to make up our final decisions on the Simon and Garfunkel show. It runs for one more night. It's on in the Grand Opera House here in Belfast until Thursday night. So, Jane, we're going to vote with the little bridges for Bridge Over Troubled Water. So how many little bridges are you going to give the Simon and Garfunkel story?
Oh, a resounding 4, a very solid 4, I think.
Well, I'm going to agree with you on this one as well, and I'm going to give it 4 little bridges too. So there we go, the Simon and Garfunkel story. If you've been to see it in Belfast this week, get in touch with us on our socials. Let us know what you think, or if you've seen anything else in the theatre. We'd love to know your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching, thank you for listening, and we'll see you back in the stalls sometime very soon.
Goodbye.